Hi everyone, it's Chris and welcome back to another video. Thank you for joining me. This is another in my favourite five series where I share my favourite five records in particular categories from any one band or artist. Today it's going to be Thin Lizzy, a band that I've seen several times live, 77, 79, 80, I saw them in 81 and 83 as well. Tremendous live band, but I'm not going to include Live and Dangerous in this video. I'm just going to show stuff from other albums and 45s and so on. So let's start with the singles. Five singles that I think are just fantastic by Thin Lizzy, and they did quite a few. This is Rosalie, live version of the Bob Seger song. This came out as a prelude to Live and Dangerous. It's back with a song that they never recorded in the studio and always played it live, called Me and the Boys Are Wondering How You and the Girls Are Getting Home From Here Tonight. Fantastic single. At number 4, Jailbreak, title track, an edited version, but a title track from the album Jailbreak from 76, backed with Running Back, which is great 45. And then at number 3, the incarnation of the band that had Gary Moore. This is Black Rose, the first of 3 singles from that particular album. This is Waiting for an Alibi, which is tremendous. At number 2, Don't Believe a Word from Johnny the Fox. This is a tremendous single. I love this. The brilliant guitar solo from Brian Robertson on this. There is a version on the deluxe CD which has 2 guitar solos in it. I think it might be a BBC recording. One from Scott, one from Brian. But this for me is a definitive. Short and sweet, to the point. Brilliantly played. Great song. And my favourite single by them is The Boys Are Back in Town. I know we've heard it loads. It's a great 45. Fantastic rock song. Back with one of their best songs, which is Emerald. Okay, albums. In 5th place is an album that's just sneaked into the top 5, if I'm honest. I played it quite a lot recently and I'm really enjoying it. It's when Thin Lizzy kind of changed their sound really and went a bit heavy metal. This is their last album from 82, 83 with John Sykes, Thunder and Lightning. This is the version of the band that has the keyboard player Darren Wharton as well, and this is also the version of the album which has a live 12-inch single with 4 tracks. Some great songs on here. Thunder and Lightning, Cold Sweat, which open the 2 sides, are good heavy songs. This is the one is good. Full version of the Sun Goes Down, which is fantastic. That probably should have closed the album, although the song that does close the album, Heart Attack, is also really, really good. Holy War's a good track as well. So that's my number 5. You know, John Sykes, he was in Tigers of Pang Tang, wasn't he, prior to this, and then went on to play obviously with Whitesnake on their 87 album. But I saw them live with John Sykes. It didn't feel like Thin Lizzy. It felt more like a kind of a heavy rock band really, but great stuff. At number 4, Bad Reputation. So this is a version of the band which actually is a 3-piece with Brian Downey, Scott Gorham and Phil Lynott. So Brian Robertson had kind of not been kicked out of the band. I think he might have left the band, although he does appear on a couple of tracks and features on the photo on the back. So he does play the guitar solo on Opium Trail, for example. But this is the album that has Dance in the Moonlight, which is a single from them. The title track is great. Soldier of Fortune is really good. There's some really good tracks on here. Some great guitar work from Scott Gorham. And that's Bad Reputation from, when's that, 77. Next up, this is a nostalgic pick actually, because I remember seeing the band a couple of times with this incarnation of the band. This is Chinatown. So this is from 1980. This is the version of the band that has Snowy White in it. Again, slightly different sound, a little bit more kind of melodic, possibly AOR-ish almost. Some great tracks on here. The title track is fantastic. Killer on the Loose, which was also a 45, is great. Sweetheart's good. We Will Be Strong, that starts the album, tremendous. I love Hey You, Didn't I, Having a Good Time. Some really good songs on here, and that's my 3rd favourite Thin Lizzy album. My 2nd favourite one is the version of the band that has Gary Moore. This is Black Rose from 1979. Do Anything You Want to Do is on here. The single Waiting for an Alibi is on here. Sarah, all 3 of those songs were singles. The title track is brilliant. Got to Give It Up, which is probably all about I think it is all about drug abuse, which ultimately he didn't, sadly. Toughest Street in Town's a great song, and it's a tremendous album. They were brilliant on that tour. When I saw them, they didn't have Brian Downey, they had Mark Nassif on the drums, but they were just tremendous, really good. And my number 1, inevitably, is this one, Jailbreak from 76. This is a tremendous album, absolutely brilliant. The title track is fantastic. Warriors is one of their best songs, brilliant. Boys Are Back in Town, cowboy song, and Emerald is just, well, astonishing. Fantastic stuff. There's my favourite singles and my favourite albums. Let's think about favourite tracks now. So at number 5, I'm going to this album, and it's one of the few songs on the album to feature Brian Robertson on lead guitar, and the song is Opium Trail, which didn't originally feature on Live and Dangerous, which is a shame. The first time I heard it live was on a 12-inch single, and it's come out subsequently on deluxe versions of Live and Dangerous. But Opium Trail is just a brilliant track. I love that. That's at number 5. At number 4, same album, the title track, Bad Reputation. The drumming on that song is off the chart. Brian Downey, the most underrated rock drummer ever. He is superb. The drum sound, the fills, everything about his playing, I think is absolutely tremendous. It comes to the fore in that track, as does the brilliant guitar work of Scott Gorham as well, which is really good. So that's Bad Reputation at number 4. At number 3, an album I haven't shown actually yet. This is Fighting, as Phil Lynott would say. But there's a track on here, Suicide, which is just a tremendous song. Brilliant, love it. Great live, but it's really good in the studio as well. It's a track that they had played live when they were a 3-piece with Eric Bell, but it features for the first time in the studio on this album, and it's just brilliant. It really is a great track. I think it's the absolute highlight of that particular album as well. That's at number 3. At number 2, have to go with the title track from Black Rose, which features just some gorgeous guitar from Gary Moore. The live version on the double live album Life is even better, but I'm not including live stuff. But the studio version of it is brilliant. So Black Rose is my second favourite Thin Lizzy track, and my favourite one comes from my favourite album. And it's the closing track from Jailbreak, and it's Emerald, which is just a glorious song, which has some beautiful guitar work from both Scott Gorham and especially from Brian Robertson. So fantastic stuff. There's my favourite 5 tracks. Deep cuts. So tracks that you maybe don't hear so much. I'm going for a couple of 45s to kick off. This came out in, I think, 78 possibly. This is Things Ain't Working Out Down on the Farm, which was from an earlier album by them, but this is the version of the band that features Midge on guitar. So this is an old song, but Midge overdubs some guitar on this, so it's kind of an interesting little curiosity piece really, but a great little song. Things Ain't Working Out Down on the Farm, that's number 5. And this is the other 45, which is kind of a little special one as well. Little Darling, which is one of the few songs in the early versions of Thin Lizzy to feature Gary Moore on guitar, and so that's a great little song, Little Darling. At number 3, gone with a track from this 12-inch single. So I remember buying this and absolutely loving it. This is the single that has Opium Trail on it, live version of that, recorded in 77, around about the time that quite a few of the tracks from Live and Dangerous were recorded. But this has Are You Ready, which is recorded in Dublin, and it is the version of the band with Snowy White as well as Scott Gorham, Phil Lynott and Brian Downey, and it's just a brilliant version. It's better, I think, than the version on Live and Dangerous, and that's my third favourite deep cut. At number 2 is the closing track from this album, Chinatown. It's called Hey You. I've always loved that song, and on the deluxe version of this, on the CD, there is a sound check version of it, which is just brilliant. It's a song that speeds up and has got some great guitar stuff on it from Snowy White and Scott Gorham, but I think predominantly Snowy White from the tone of it. But it's a brilliant song. I love Hey You, and that's my number 2 deep cut. And my number 1 deep cut is the track that closes their heavy metal album, Thunder and Lightning. It's called Heart Attack, with a very poignant line, Hey Mama, I'm Dying, on it. And and clearly not that long after that he did. So that's my favourite one, Heart Attack from Thunder and Lightning. So let's do some related stuff now. So at number 5, I'm going to go with Bobby Tench. Now, Bobby Tench was a singer who died a few years back now, who had played with the Jeff Beck Group. But he produced this single, which is actually on Stiff Records, and it's his version of Still in Love with You, which is Often seen as a Brian Robertson classic, although the version on Nightlife has Gary Moore playing guitar on it. But Brian Robertson used to make it his own in live versions, and he actually plays on this version of it by Bobby Tench. Nice bit of guitar work, not as good as the Gary Moore version in terms of guitar, but a really interesting little track. Bobby Tench, Still in Love with You, featuring Brian Robertson. A joint place at number 4, and it's 2 tracks by the same guy. This is Canadian guitarist Pat Travers, and on this one we've got a track called Speak Easy, which has Scott Gorham with some lovely guitar. That's Speak Easy from Putting It Straight, and then from Making Magic, a really glorious version of Statesboro Blues, where Brian Robertson throws in a great guitar solo, having been encouraged by Pat Travers to take it, Brian, and it's a brilliant solo after that. That's tremendous. So that's a joint number, whatever that was. What was that? Number 4. At number 3, a track from the Gary Moore Band, and this is their album, a reissue of it, called Grinding Stone. That is actually a decent song. It's kind of a boogie metal sort of song that opens the album. But there's a track on here which is kind of like quite an epic song. It's like a proggy Santana, and it's called Spirit. And there's some really good guitar work from quite a young Gary Moore on that particular album. So that's my number 3. I think that's 3, yeah, 3. At number 2, Darren Wharton, who was the keyboard player in latter day Thin Lizzy, went on to form a band called Dare. This was their debut album, which features scientist Brian Cox, bizarrely. That's Darren Wharton in the front. There's a song called Abandon on here, which is brilliant. And another track on here called King of Spades, which when they played it live, and there's a live version on the B-side of this track, Heartbreaker, they incorporate a little bit of Black Rose, and it's really, really good. So if you've not heard it, King of Spades by Dare, go for the live version. Or there is, I think, an extended studio version of it, which is the same thing. And at number 1, in terms of artists who were in Thin Lizzy but doing other work, I'm going to choose something from Snowy White. Now, Snowy White had played with Roger Waters. In fact, he appears on this album, and alongside another guitarist, I can't think what his name is offhand, he plays the solo on Comfortably Numb really well. There's some great guitar work on this album by Roger Waters. This is his live version of The Wall. But I'm going to choose something that comes from White Flames. Now, it would be easy to choose Bird of Paradise, which was a hit single for him, but I'm going to have from here The Journey. There's 2 parts, Journey Part 1 and Part 2, which is just got some absolutely gorgeous guitar work from Snowy White on there. He really can play, this guy. He's quite bluesy, but that's a beautiful track. So there's my favourite kind of related Thin Lizzy track, The Journey by Snowy White from White Flames. So tell me what you think in the comments below. What are your favourite tracks or albums by this amazing band? Thanks very much. I'm sure I'll be back sometime soon with another video. Cheers.